I just saw Ken Wheeler drop a picture of an apple that's cut through, and I really need to kind of. So he's getting closer. Ken's obviously getting a bit closer to hopefully understanding that our reality is kind of like we're seen in the fruit world. And so here's the deal. He has shown an apple cut through this way, through the equator. I'm going to show you why I think that's only part of the story. I used to do the same cut through the equator. But what I say to folks is that the North Pole is here. Like, remember when you believed you lived on a globe, the North Pole was here, and the South Pole was here, and Africa is here, kind of thing, on the side of it. So we know obviously that nature prefers to put the fruit always inside the skin, so Earth has to be inside of this rather than on the continents rather have to be on the outside, can't be on the outside of the skin. It makes no sense in reality. So if this is the North Pole and this is the South Pole, I'm going to push the stick through to denote without poking it into my hand. There you go. So this is the North Pole, South Pole, and they say it's tilted like this and spinning and all that hoo-ha, but of course it's the sky that's moving. What Ken has done is he's cut the apple through here, which is what I used to do, and say that's how the Earth looks. But when you do it like that, you're still left with the North Pole that is up. I say that the North Pole is actually sideways. The North Pole is actually north, and the South Pole is south. This is how the Earth is aligned. And so the apple, rather than being cut that way, needs to be cut this way. Let me do it for you. And when you open it up, you discover that the north is here, and the South Pole is here. Now, does that mean there's another North Pole, and that those old maps that used to show the continents in two circles like this, two halves of the apple like this, does that mean that we have an ice wall joining? Is that where Europe is? Is that where Siberia is, where these two ice walls join? It's an interesting idea, but it suggests to me, without getting into the complication of whether there's two halves to this, if our entire Earth is aligned here, then the continents are within this. The continents are in this space here, the ice wall and extremities are here, and Africa might be down there, and New Zealand might be there, and South America might be here somewhere. But the key for me is, and the point I'm trying to make here, is that the North Pole is sort of like the way out, but it's the way out back into the tree. And the South Pole is, well, the butt of the apple. And I don't think that that's really where we're meant to be so focused. You know, all the sine wave stuff suggests that instead of being too hot and in the magma, or too cold and in the sky and in the spiritual and in the purple even, we should actually be going to the green. And the green is the heart. And the heart of this apple, I think you'll agree, is here. And this is where Africa and maybe other more important places, but for me, the Mount Meru that's here in Africa is nearer to the heart than the fabled Mount Meru that is up here in the so-called North Pole. You'll notice, interestingly, the way that this ice ring, if the skin was the ice ring, how it actually forms in this loop around here, and how this might explain the sort of Canadian, really frozen, frigid places, and this might explain the Russian, really frigid, Northern Europe, Russian, really frigid places, in a conception of the Earth that's more akin to what we see in nature, an apple inside a skin. So I hope that's useful. North Pole, South Pole, and the center, the heart. That's where it's at. Cheers.